Hey everybody, Healthy Prepper here. Today's topic is things can happen fast. Let's look at a few of the recent news events from a prepper's perspective just to see how quickly things can happen and how this might be affected if you're a prepper. All right, first of all, let's look at Ukraine. I'm looking at this from the perspective of how quickly a part of your country can be gone. Look how quickly Russia took a part of Ukraine. It took Crimea. Now, from a prepper's perspective, you might say to yourself, well, in America, here we sit, nobody's going to come and invade us, quote unquote, so we think, and it would be very difficult for another country just to come in and take us or take a part of our country. Stranger things have happened. I don't strongly believe that's what's going to happen, but you never know. And with the other issues like EMP possible attack, which could severely weaken or cripple us and our military for defense purposes, it could fraction the country very quickly into unrecognizable, townships, villages, states that where these lines never previously existed could now exist. So it's certainly something to consider. Okay, so as a prepper, would it behoove you to have your stockpiles in place in case of such situations such as this? Yes, it would, because you don't know what the incoming laws or the regime will decide are the new ways of doing things. You might say to yourself, well, in America, they would never require us to do X, Y, and Z. But in new country X, they could require you to do X, Y, and Z, such as hand over certain portions of your goods, your supplies, your food, your weapons. Maybe they will or will not allow you to keep your weapons. We don't know what the situation might be. But either way, things can happen very fast. As we've seen in Ukraine, a part of a country can disappear quickly into others' hands. Okay, number 2 is Katrina. Let's look at how quickly martial law came into place. All right, here we have a normal, everyday American city that has been around forever, New Orleans, doing their thing, having fun, living the good life. And the next thing you know, the hurricane comes, the floodwaters come, and martial law is enacted. And all of a sudden, weapons are being taken away. People are being forced to leave their homes. Here's a good example why it might be a good idea to have alternative locations for storage of survival items. In other words, if your area is washed out in the flood, all your prepper survival items at one location might not be the best plan. It may be a good idea to have some things on higher ground somewhere stashed as well, either in an official secondary location or a makeshift secondary location, a hidden area, or at friends' or family's homes far away, if you can work that out amongst yourselves. All right, number 3, let's take a look at the mudslide that recently happened. Talk about something that certainly happened fast. I mean, these people were doing their thing in their homes, that type of thing, and zappo, this mudslide comes along. Basically, it was described as just a big dark mass that came along and swallowed everything in its sight. Really, there was no time to grab your stuff, pack up, load the car with supplies. I mean, you either ran for your life or you were covered in mud. And it was a very sad thing that happened. And this is also another good reason for a prepper to consider having items at another place other than your main location. Because, you can have the best plans of having everything in place at the bug-in location, which I know a lot of us do. We do really rely on our bug-in location, our main home, as the prep site. But it certainly shows us what can happen and how quickly things can be wiped out so fast. All supplies, all forms of life. It still gets to me when I think about they could hear noises and people calling, but they couldn't get to them. It's just heartbreaking. Okay, number 4, the recent airplane, the Malaysia plane. How quickly an entire airplane full of people can just disappear. Now, we may or may not find the end to this story. Who knows? I think there's more to the story. But from a prepper's perspective, think about what it would be like if you were on the plane and you were one of the people to disappear. What circumstance would you have left your family or your community with back home? Are they prepared to survive without you? Do you have your ducks in a row? Do you have enough money or cash, or do you have all your paperwork in place? Do you have, your powers of attorney and things like that in case you're not there? Do you have life insurance policies? Do you have stashes of cash in case they need to get money quickly in order to do things like possibly fly over to see where you are? All right. And then you think about the people back home who have lost somebody and what they're going through. Devastation and disaster can happen all too quickly, and it certainly is not the norm, but it certainly catches the news buzz, and it does happen. So we certainly wish for all of our preppers that none of these circumstances ever come to pass for you, but just in case, it's not a bad idea to be prepared ahead of time. Take care, everyone. Happy and healthy prepping.